Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to more game dev. We're on week 2 now of my vacation, in which we are trying to get a demo out by the end of this vacation. So week 1 went pretty well. We can do a quick review on that, but we spent the first day on Monday reviewing everything and trying to schedule the week, which I'm going to repeat here. I think that was a good kind of break point to be like, okay, what's the build look like? Tuesday, we got revealing room systems in place so that we had some UI that would show the progress as we reveal a room and then would reward us with a cutscene that could do anything really, because a cutscene can reward or affect the game in a lot of different ways. So that'll be great for if we want to spawn treasure chests or enemies, or even have cutscenes play when a specific room is completed. In fact, I'd like it so each room maybe has something unique to its completion, but that might be a lofty goal for the demo. Maybe that's a future full release thing. And then we set it up on Tuesday so that individual skills could have experience associated with them. Wednesday, we start looking at a lot of the bugs and polish that we made kind of notes on Monday. Thursday, we got like some ability polish in and got the save system working. I'm pretty happy with getting that up and running. That definitely feels like it's been a huge boon to be able to just like play through the game, make a permanent save file, and then reload at that point. Animation polish, got rid of a bit of popping. Took us a full 2 hours to kind of like fix up the animation system / relearn it, but I think that went really well. And then we got some new art, slime art yesterday, or it was built Saturday, but we got it integrated into the build yesterday, as well as fixing the 0 HP crash, which I said a couple of times in that stream, and this is the last time I'll repeat it. I'm sure I'm lying, but I'm going to try and not bring it up every time, but I think that there's still some sort of fundamental problem with the 0 HP fix. I think in general, I've been thinking about it a lot. We have like a state management for the whole game. So when you start a new game, we save information about your progress on the skill tree, how much experience your abilities have, what tiles you've revealed in each room. But I think we need some sort of like separate level of like your progress in a run. And HP and your amount of time remaining should be per run stats, not per game stats, if that makes any sense. We're going to keep thinking about that, and we'll probably come to that, get a fix for that in later. And then we also started working on the UI hiding for the tutorial, which I'm pretty happy about. So today I'd like to kind of review the build a little bit. I don't think we'll need to spend the whole 2 hours on it like we did last week, but we'll start there. We'll make some more notes, see if there's any more polish that we want to call out. But I've been trying to be better about updating our pure ref doc when we find something that I think needs tweaking, just making even just a single little note about it, just so that we can keep track of this stuff a little bit easier, and it's not so much like, oh, I'll fix that eventually and then I don't remember what I need to fix. We're gonna do 2 streams again today. We'll do 2 hours here, and then we'll follow up with another one from 2 to 4 with an hour break for lunch, and I think we're gonna keep that up throughout the week. We're gonna do that tomorrow, same time frame, and then Saturday, Sunday, we'll end up doing from 3 to 5, and then 7 to 9. We'll still have that 1 hour break, but for dinner on those days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think I'm going to take those days off from streaming. I feel like last week was pretty intense with the technically 5 days of streaming. I'm going to see how it feels to do 4 days of streaming this week. Maybe Friday, if we're feeling adventurous, we could do an art stream with Drixie. I like doing a lot of that off stream simply because there's a lot of running back and forth between computers. But she did make her own PNG tuber avatar that she's very excited about. I'm not sure how we'd do that with the voice stuff and how to share that across. It's technical stuff, but anyways, we may get to that, we may not. But regardless, we're definitely going to try and hit up at least today, tomorrow, and then Saturday, Sunday this week, and might just try and use some of the time in between to get some art stuff done with Drixie. That's kind of the main thing. We are currently on 16th, and we have until this 5th technically, because I will start back up on real work doing the real job stuff on the 6th. So we've still got a whole 3 weeks. I think holidays will probably end up repeating the schedule a little bit. It seems like similarly next week, and I haven't figured out what the time schedule is going to be for that 4th week yet. Okay, that was 5 minutes of rambling, but that's kind of where we're at. So let's jump in. If anyone's checking out this YouTube video, I just wanted to give some space or some time to kind of give some rundown of where we've been and where we're going. So the problem with taking a look at the build in its current state is we still have some of the tutorial UI turned off by default. Let's mute the game audio for now. I do want to do, you know what, actually, probably realistically, we should do some audio past kind of notes as well. So let's pause this background audio. Let's restart this and let's play it with audio on. And let's kind of get an idea of where we are with sound effects and stuff too. So we're going to try and keep an eye on all of that. So here, new game. Pretty happy with the way this is feeling still. We still have a task for Drixie to increase the font size. I believe all of that is all called out here. Yeah, we have increased the size of the font here. We'd like to change the contrast. I think Drixie might want to make a full pass on this whole piece. The water, I don't think she is liking as much last time I talked to her about this, which was I think a week or two ago. But Drixie might want to do a full rework of this same composition, but maybe just start from scratch. We'll see. We'll see. There are definitely bigger things to worry about. Still happy with the sound effects here. This audio choice I think is okay for kind of like the resurrection. I haven't thought about it in terms of some of the new pieces that have come out recently from the Panman audio packs that I've been using. There might be something that fits a little better for here, but I like the kind of rising, like, it doesn't necessarily bring this like spacey or like goddess realmy theme to life. But I still like this piece overall. We're about to start an adventure, is the feel I get from this one. One thing worth calling out here, and this is more of a feature than a art problem, but I think we could use a different background here. We could change skybox color from black to space. I don't know what space would look like, if not just a different shade of black, maybe, or blue, cloudy sky. Could be an improvement. Okay, group those up. Nice. Still want to do another dialogue pass on this. We made some edits to it. Still want to get the surprise icon in here. We still want to take another pass at the audio sound effects, the VO lines. These are all documented in PureRef already. Okay, not bad. I'm pretty happy with that walk forward, interact, and walk back. One thing that could be nice there is maybe some sort of twinkle effect. I don't know if I'm thinking of Final Fantasy VI maybe, but I feel like sometimes when they would hand off items, they would just have like a little sparkle. I think that could be a neat addition. I'm going to put that under the polish section, I think. Let's get this set up a little bit better so that my avatar isn't intersecting it. So I remember not to put stuff behind my head. And then let's paste this image in here. I think this might be relatively easy. It's kind of a mixed bag, because if we want to get like a little particle appearing during the cutscene, extremely simple to play a particle during our events. Just make a new sequence step for it. But the particle itself would be the thing that I would think would be a bit trickier to build. I say that, but I feel like we might actually have one. Item? Did we do this already? I actually think for Heir of Embers we may have that in one of those art folders. Let's take a quick look. We're in no rush here. I can calm down. I feel like sometimes I'm like, go, 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 go. And it's like, well... Or... we just take our time. Wouldn't be in any of the design data stuff. So it's going to be maybe in dungeon? Oh, that sounds right, actually. We have some sprite sections, sewer, These look like they're all going to be related to when we were doing isometric in like actual sprite form before we moved to doing pixel perfect 3D models. At least for the floors and walls. Debug? That doesn't seem right either. These are some different item icons. It's good to remember we have those as well. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I feel like at some point Drixie definitely made a little twinkle particle, but it's very possible that that got removed in some sort of cleanup pass. Saw elemental HUD stuff. I don't think it would be in there. Debug, maybe? No, a lot of this is around textures and shaders. Okay, so I can't find it immediately here. But we definitely had a twinkle effect, and if it's not... I didn't realize we had so many of these icons here, too. These are pretty good. Probably needs another pass, because they are from when Drixie first started doing pixel art, but they're not bad bases that we could probably clean up and make a lot better. Okay, so we don't see the twinkle, but I'm pretty positive I remember us having one, so it might just be available if we go digging through some of Drixie's archive folders that aren't necessarily in the project. Cool. Regardless, I do think I would like to have spawn particle for item handoff in boot cutscene. Group those together. Okay. Now we have this like fall out of the world. We got rid of the drop down. I think we did that off camera at some point in the last few days. And replaced it with this lightning strike to enter. Oh yeah, I also kind of butchered the dialogue very quickly yesterday on stream, and I noticed that, but have not fixed it. I think because we have nothing but press A here, I think I might want to try a medium and even delete this entry. I think, how's the next one look? I don't love that. I think this could also be a medium. And then this should stay open. I think close self. Stay open. There's like a voice that I'm going to need to find for a lot of this as well. Like, I don't know what hero sounds like in my head, so I feel like a lot of this is just going to be like ideas of lines more so than the lines themselves. And we might also find that I am not the best writer and that this might just end up being bad dialogue throughout, but I want to try. I feel like I feel like I can do this. It just might require some trial and error. And that's part of the thing here. We're not making the finished version of the game right off the bat here. I'm hoping to get a demo and get feedback. And if some of the feedback is the writing's really bad, then I might have to go train on that for a little while. Training montage. It's like, so for this line, we're trying to think of something where it's like, okay, we're letting the character know that now they need to move forward. That's the thing I'm thinking about. But that's the messaging of the line. But the line itself should be from Hero's perspective, saying, I guess I should head out. That's why I guess sounds weird as like a line, but I feel like it's like the uncertainty is what I'm trying to get across here. I guess I can't stay here forever. No, because we haven't been waiting a long time, so that line doesn't make any sense to me. Perfect. That might be a large dialogue. I think it has to be medium if the one before it was medium. So let's try that. And then, do I still have this one locked on that inspector? I do not. I have it locked on the cutscene for the other one. So let's switch here. So this one now only needs to be one line of dialogue, then 2 lines of dialogue. It almost feels like maybe this should be one line and then something should happen in between. Advanced dialogue, 1 line. Listen, I know what I'm building, alright? The snake is eating its own tail, and I'm very much here for it. Okay, so let's give that a shot. Right, we're supposed to be reviewing, not fixing things. But I don't think, like I said, this is going to take very long. But the bad miswritten things was bothering me, and I think they're probably still miswritten. My grammar is not the best. I will likely need a proofreader. Okay, so this is all good. It's just adding a little bit of movement and animation really elevates this whole scene. I feel like by a lot for me personally. Right, so we have this slide out. I think we want to replace that. I think the goddess should like cast a spell and you should get like, you know, lost from the scene. I still like the idea of the goddess realm disappearing from view, but the hero's spirit falling away doesn't make as much sense to me. So at this point, I think this is when we have the stats come out. And then here's the thing about the stats. I don't mind that, actually. I think that line's conveying a bit of what I'm trying to get at. It's a bit meta, which is what I want to try and achieve. Do I still unlock the whole room? Does not look like it. Oh, there we go. I was missing a tile. Okay, so even though we don't have the UI showing up here because it hasn't been tutorialized, we're still unlocking the whole room. So I think we need to do a pass on the spaces. This is kind of like maybe a category we don't really have in PureRef. It's not really polish. I guess it's kind of tutorial related, but I feel like we maybe need to do some different spaces. Snipping tool keeps trying to switch monitors on me. All right. Let's go back over here. So as part of the tutorial, I think we need to improve or modify. No, it's not modify. It's create initial tutorial rooms. Current starting area is too large. I think that there's too much to explore here. It was neat for prototyping purposes. But I think if we're tutorializing the movement, I don't want to have a ton of like just walking around doing nothing per se. So I think I want to make this space a lot smaller and maybe even something we haven't really tried. So can't really show it. Maybe we can actually. It should be, yeah, the 3D space is over here. But if we open this up and we take a look at the room object, we can see there's like this 3D geometry here. And if we turn on the water object, which is like a base I use to show the full size of our space, this is as large as we can get inside of our game. If we get any bigger than this, it starts to like cut into the UI quite a lot. So we don't really want to go too far beyond the scope of this space. So for the most part, I've been placing a lot of the world exits on the edge here so that it's not, so it's like on the edge of this 20 by 20 grid. That's where you exit from. And I've been thinking about every room being this size. But one thing when talking about tutorial rooms with Drixie the other day, that she brought up, which I hadn't really considered, is do we need to have this always be the edge? Like you always exit from the edge of this 20 by 20 space. And I hadn't thought about that. So what we could do is we could make it so this is actually like the exit is like right here. So it's quite literally just a small little clearing with the exit out of the room immediately a few steps away from where you spawn in. And I think that could be interesting. I kind of like spawning us in here, but I'm going to debate that. I'm not sure, but it's worth thinking about. Okay, so if we walk off the map, this will all unload and that'll be fine. Just going to go back and forth here. It's all good. So when we enter a room, it glows right now because when we fully complete a space, we have like a cutscene that we play. I think that we should have some sort of system to remember what's been spawned. So this is like a feature thing. And this might fall a little bit under the back-end tracking system I was mentioning I think I need earlier. Excuse me. I think... What is this note? This note is that look into spawning objects or adjusted state based on completed rooms. Based on cutscene reward. Okay, it's a bit weirdly worded, but my idea is that if we ever were to spawn like a treasure chest into the space, I think that when you complete the room by revealing the final set of tiles, I think that treasure chest should like fall into position as long as you're not standing on where it's going to appear, basically. Maybe there's a thing where we bump the player off that tile. That could be interesting. Regardless, I think once that chest comes in, I don't think every time we enter into that room we should do that same spawn the chest animation, especially if that chest has already been looted and maybe that stays between runs. I'm not sure. I think there's some sort of like cutscene plays an animation for something appearing, and then there should be like a state change where that thing stays there. I think that's all related to our kind of Boolean flag management stuff. Regardless, I want to make a note about it. sound effects are sounding okay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that's feeling. The slime feels like it's moving okay. We had a couple of pieces of feedback, but I think we documented those yesterday. We did. Talked to Drixie about those yesterday. Those all seem like they should be pretty quick for us to modify and fix up the slime. Mainly the gradient's a bit too intense, the enemy's a bit too large. That attack animation could be polished up a little bit. Pretty happy with the way this is feeling. We've gotten rid of the end screen. This is all feeling much quicker to get back here. Oh, do I have a task for myself that I need to fix the Wisp? We had changed the Wisp to be a smaller version a while ago. And I don't think I've updated that. Okay, we should make a note for that. Because I've been feeling like the Wisp is a little too large. Like, if you look at the scale of the goddess is, you know, NPC sized, but the Wisp is like the size of a human, which I think is not what we're looking for here. So we have a smaller version. I just haven't swapped the art. Let's see. So replace Wisp with smaller variant. Okay. Then we have the skill tree system. We still have notes that we need to update this and design new skill trees that are actually correct. Those are just some placeholder defaults that came over when we were initially setting up the screen and getting it functional. Let's see. I don't think the Goddess Realm should have a cutscene associated with completing it. There was also the idea that we came up with at some point, which I don't think we've written down, which is that the certain aspects of the area shouldn't be revealed at the start, and they should be manually brought in via cutscenes. So this way that we reveal the world in the main game doesn't make as much sense here. So we need to create a system to only reveal stuff when it has appropriately been unlocked. Okay, so find a way to disable the tile revealing by sight in Goddess Realm. Technically, the Wisp is a different character, so one potential solution for that could be solution different walk ability without sight. Because if we just have a different walk ability without any sight parameters or ability effects, I should say, associated with it, that should make things a lot easier. Okay. We've called out that we want that to not show a single checkpoint if we haven't unlocked another one. Oh, we swapped to the stranded sound for this one. I've been liking that, actually. I didn't even notice it until the second time in, but we swapped out of the Fairy Forest, I believe, or Forest of Fairies soundtrack to Stranded. I've been liking this here. I feel like it's much more of an ominous forest feel, which I think fits what we're doing here a little better. We're just beginning into a isekai adventure, but we don't really know what we're doing. One piece of feedback I think I've gotten a couple of times is it'd be nice if the audio shifted to like combat music when we are fighting enemies. We could probably do that. Let's make a note of it. Beyond that, I don't think there's much else to review or talk about, honestly. It feels like we're really coming together in a lot of ways. Change audio, well, music to battle when fighting. The question would be, what's the trigger for that? Because, like, technically the enemy is fighting you constantly. Well, didn't want controls. Because if we just, like, stay here, the enemy is alerted, and then we'll come and try and start attacking us. So, like, they're always trying to reach us. And so, technically, if an enemy is revealed, is that the point where music turns on? Or is it like a distance thing? When the enemy's close enough to us, the music changes? But then if we run away from that enemy, does the music turn off within a few seconds? Unsure. Okay. So I figured this would be a shorter review. But yeah, not a lot of other pieces here. I'm pretty happy with the way that the sound effects and the audio are playing. We've written down a lot of the other things that we still need to do. There's not much that's really changed that much in the past week. It's starting to be a lot more content creation at this point. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered. There's a couple of small pieces we came up with for feedback, but otherwise, we're still just moving along here at a pretty good clip. Any other major work items or tasks? Let's take a look at updating this. So we still need to figure out the plot and flow of the game. We've got the tutorial in progress. We're going to continue a bit with that today as well, I would think, somewhere in here. What did I write in Discord? Discord, I said I would be working on tutorial work. Okay, yeah, so let's update this. I think it'll be less about bugs and polish today and more about tutorial. I guess we could work on, actually, what we can do is we can maybe look at doing, seeing as we made good progress, kind of making notes. Maybe we focus on doing some polish during this morning's stream, and we'll look at doing some more of the tutorial cleanup this afternoon. This is no longer documenting the bugs. This is just bugs and polish work. Okay, so flow, tutorial, unlocking abilities and abilities order. So unlock order of the abilities and making the abilities themselves for both the player and the enemies. Still need to do that. Still need to design the skill trees. We still have to build the whole map. This is a broad kind of template of what I'm thinking of doing for the layouts of the first space. And I think we've only built this room, this room, this room, this room, and this room. So 5 of them, the ones that are outlined in black. And then I want to make these 4 tutorial spaces. Actually, I might want to change this a little bit. I've been thinking about things a little differently. Yeah, I might make some edits to this layout. Regardless, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 more rooms we need to create. And this is probably not going to be in the demo. This is just like thinking where we're gonna go next. It's a future area. Yeah, so this is still a big part of what we need to do. Again, content creation, right? Like, this is content creation, this is content creation, this is content creation. In some regards, you could think about the plot is also sort of content creation. We just need to fill in dialogue. And the tutorial is getting to be that now. We have most of the systems for hiding the UI. We can turn all that stuff on. I think there's still a little bit of coding work here. This I'm less concerned about. This could be the last week. If we don't get to like some sort of end screen for the demo, so that like when you exit the map, like say here, it gives you some sort of like message saying the demo's over. Like, I'm not too concerned. But I do think that'll be a relatively easy thing to add. The event system is probably the last big feature that would take us, like, honestly, probably Saturday, Sunday this week if we wanted to work on that. The question is, do I want to focus on the event system, or is that more polish of a later thing? We haven't really talked about it, but I don't want to get into it right now. But the short version is it's not going to be integral for the gameplay. It's just going to add a lot more life to the world. So it's not something I necessarily have to do even for the demo right now, which is why it's a stretch goal and not something mandatory. We technically finished this one, which I guess is why I've italicized and bolded it. In some ways, I think this narrative cutscenes gated by flags system. What is this? I think this is describing the design data aspect of it. I'm just going to add a little bit more detail under it. Design data creation and specific tile on enter cutscenes. I still want a system to make it so that when we enter into a certain tile, a cutscene triggers. And to be clear, I guess we kind of can already do that, but we don't have a way of making it so that doesn't happen every single time. Again, it's the gating by flags part of this in brackets that is really this thing the system's kind of missing more so. Okay. Cool. I think we have made notes. We've created work items. Scheduling for the week. Okay, so what do we got? We got 3 weeks left. We need to do all of this work. I think last week was really good because we added some more features. We did a bit of polish work. We got some features that hadn't been touched in a while up and running, more polish work, and then fixing some bugs and getting some more feature work in. I think this week it's starting to feel a little bit more like the feature section here is much smaller, but the data entry section is quite large. So I think I want to work on tutorial today and get all the UI actually showing up. I think we might want to also generate some tutorial map areas and then tutorial UI / cutscenes, so that we can get that tutorial UI appearing again. And we're going to need to going to have to block out the new map areas in order to build those cutscenes. That should put us in a good spot for most of the tutorialization at that point, if we can get this done. I'm sure I can think of other things I would like to have tutorials or even just little bits of dialogue about. But in terms of getting all the UI to be functional by the time you're finished playing through the first 5 minutes or so, I think that's what I'd like to have by the end of the second stream today. For tomorrow, I think I'd like to focus on data entry. But which data entry specifically? I think it's kind of the way that it's laid out. I'd like to do unlockable ability order, so we should get the abilities We should get the abilities set up so that they're not all just in the skill tree when you start, but that there's some sort of like process of them unlocking. That probably won't take the whole day, so we could probably also, or at least the whole 2 hours of the first stream tomorrow, so we could probably get designing some initial skill trees done as well. One thing I just realized we don't have on here is balance pass on player and enemy stats. I think I've been thinking about it a little bit like the ability stats themselves, but really it's going to come down to like defenses and HP values and stuff like that. And how we design the skill trees for where which stats are where will also kind of need the balancing to be done. We can make this a bit shorter by doing that. I think we could also just call it balance pass. Let me copy and paste, please. So where do we want to put that balance pass? Here? Maybe we do it this way. We leave the abilities always unlocked, and then we do some skill tree and balance pass stuff. And then we try and do unlockable order stuff in the afternoon. If we can get that together, I think the weekend... I think the weekend could be start with some bugs and polish. And then if I was to be optimistic, we could start looking at the event system. Actually, we could say that we do bugs and polish, but we might want art integration called out because we'll have a couple of days working with Drixie on some of the art changes. It's iteration, integration. So whatever work we get done here will probably need some time to actually be hooked up. So we could give ourselves the first 2 hours on Saturday to do that. There's also a chance, I think Saturday, I could have some time to do that before stream too. Possibly. Maybe won't allocate myself that just in case, but this seems like we're coming along actually. There's still some pretty big polish items that could take up an entire day on their own. Like doing another pass on the combo point system is probably a huge thing, but realistically, if we can get most of the kind of balancing done, the unlocking of the abilities, and most of the tutorial stuff today, so even just the next 2 days, if we can get most of this stuff done, I think we're going to be in a really good spot. Okay. Okay. I think it's so crazy. I just want to, for a second here, I just want to mention that, like, it feels like we went from last week where I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to finish this in 4 weeks. There's so much work to do. And last week, I also feel like I didn't get a ton done. And looking at it today, I'm thinking about all the work we have to do, and sure, there's a fair amount of design work, like build all maps could also just be the entire weekend as well, which maybe makes more sense than trying to get the event system in. It just feels like we're accelerating. It feels like everything's like super impossible. We have no idea how to do it. There's just so much work to do. And then day by day, just hitting it stream by stream, I am getting a fair amount of it just figured out. Okay. Let's say this is the plan for the week. We'll do some bugs and polish now. We'll do the tutorial stuff in the second stream after lunch. We will work on some design trees and balance passes for some tuning tomorrow, and then try and get the unlockable ability order figured out. So when do you get slash? Do you get to choose? Like, we also need to discuss some changes to some of the abilities that haven't been talked about on camera. And then we do art integration Saturday, first stream based off of whatever I get done with Drixie on Wednesday and Friday. And then some more bugs and polish to finish that day off. And then maybe Sunday is just building all the maps. Just making the other 14 maps I want to create. And then the last 3 weeks can just be bugs and polish. And honestly, we could spend a couple of days on like doing an AI pass. And just adding more cutscenes, adding more narrative. Like every time we finish a run and go back to the Goddess Realm, depending on what we've done, I want to have different events happen when you return. Or I shouldn't use events because event system is something else, but I want to have different narrative cutscenes with the Goddess each time you come back to the Goddess Realm. Okay, cool. Talked it out. I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I've definitely rubber ducked myself into like a good mindset. So let's see if we can keep that positivity and solve some more problems. Let's take a look at here. Hide in Goddess Realm. So we've hidden some of these UI elements. We'll take a look at getting the rest of them turning on later, but I haven't looked at the action bar. It's still showing up in the Goddess Realm, and it's like weirdly positioned. And in a lot of ways, we don't even need it in the Goddess Realm because we're not fighting anything. We don't need to show your number of actions before the enemies go. Here, it just like distracts from the experience. Let's get that turned off, that glow, when we finish revealing every tile here. So that's inside of the... I thought it was a sequence. Oh, I guess technically it's this one. But it's inside of the actual dungeon data, which is not here. Not in the TSVs, not in prefabs, dungeons. So inside of the Goddess Realm, let's remove the level completion data in here. So it has none. And let's make it so that if this string is... if the addressable ID string is null or empty, we just return. Just leave. So that it doesn't do anything if it's not set. Now the action bar itself. Let's go take a look at the front end. It's not going to be a pool. I think it just might be a hard-coded thing. Is it this thing? No, this doesn't look right. Actually, I have no idea what this thing is. Is this being referenced by anything? No. I think this might be dead code related to the room completion stuff. Because this is pointing at here and here. But I would think that that would be under... Yeah, it's under here. So I think this might have been a bad copy and paste. We're going to delete it. Maybe the whole game breaks. And then this one is what's actually aligning the action points under the character. So then I think what I want to do is we want to add a empty parent above this, and this is going to be player action points, and we're going to give this a required flag component. This thing already has a list of generics, so we can give it this one as another generic component that it wants to handle, like the tutorials. And then I think if I remember correctly, this needs to get reverted now, and then we need to update it with the clock reference one, which is outside of its prefab. Okay. So then we need to set the flag that's required. And I think we have location flags, which were used for something else, but I think can be used for this case as well. So the idea is going to be, if it is not in the goddess realm, better way to do this, rather than trying to add it like as a... I was going to parse the string, but we could just say what the flag status we're expecting is. Required status. And by default, we can accept complete as what we're expecting, because that's what we were doing before. And we will set it to required not started, which doesn't make as much sense in this context. But what we're going to do is, if we're in the goddess realm, we will set this flag to active. And if we're not in the goddess realm, we'll set it to not started or inactive. I guess inactive would be a better term for that enum. It's fine. Okay. The question now is, how do we set the flag that we're entering the goddess realm? Let's go take a look at location flags. So a location flag was originally set as part of our location design data. And a location was kind of like a area of a town. We haven't talked about the town stuff a lot, mostly because it's not going to be in the demo. But I have this idea that like each town could be a different screen. since we've been building some of the 3D maps, I've realized it's actually relatively straightforward if we want to make each zone or house its own map as well. So we may not go to a pure screen version. We might make it more interactive than that, but regardless, locations were associated with screens originally. The question becomes, do we want to augment that data so that we can have it also work for scenes, not just screens? Oh, I need more water. I'll be right back. I should turn off my avatar when I'm not actually at the station. That way if people are in the VOD, they can skip past when they don't see me. Okay, I think what might make more sense is instead of having this location design data be used, we might want to just make a separate system for tracking what scene you're in. Sorry, the reason I'm quiet is I'm trying to think about how I want to architect this. And I realized in yesterday's stream that I do not like architecting on stream. It's a lot of like quiet contemplation. But I think the debate is whether or not it makes sense for what scene you're in to be a flag. Realistically, I could just directly ask Unity what scene we're in. Let's go to the Dungeon Transition Manager. When we go to a new dungeon, we kick off the Transition Manager. This handles the scene management. This scene manager, I think, can tell us get active scene. So there's already a system for tracking what scene we're in. So building a flag for every single scene and then setting that flag to a correct state based off of whether or not we're in that scene or not is a bit silly. Because we could just call directly to the scene manager. But the thing about that is that we have a lot of components and infrastructure built up around flags, where if we have a flag ID, we can just check that ID. And we don't have it right now, but I feel like there's probably a world in which we might want to check multiple IDs. So I think that there might be some syntax we might want to do eventually where we could do like an OR symbol and then like another one. So that we can actually have multiples. Or we might want to just make this a list of flag IDs instead of an individual entry. Which I guess if we want to do that, we should probably do that sooner rather than later, because it's going to be a real problem to re-edit all the spots where it's currently being used. Yeah. Regardless, Actually, no, regardless, we should make a note of that. That's a polish. It's kind of a feature. Where'd PureRef go? It's kind of a feature more than a polish. It's all kind of semantics at some point. Make flag ID fields lists. The problem with that is it doesn't cover all situations. Like, what is it a list of? Is it a list of all flags that must be correct, or some of the flags that are correct? Maybe it still makes sense to be strings. And we have a string parsing system. That'll yield more typos, but either that or we have a list of like required positive flags, required not. Because technically this is deciding what state we're expecting that flag to be in. So maybe it's a list of flag IDs and required states for those flag IDs. That actually might be the best version. Make flag ID and required state into a class. Make class make entry for required flag a list of above class. I like that. Okay, we should do that at some point. For right now, though, the thing we're debating is whether or not we should even have this component, or should we just make a new component, which is just called, like, you know, required scene. The nice thing about converting it to a flag is that other systems can use it as well. So, do we have any... Do any of our cutscenes use the flag system right now? Not really. I guess technically in here we're setting flags, but you would never set a scene flag. The scene flag would just exist as what it is. I think we might have a... Is it going to be combat related? It's backend related? There is a flag wait sequence step, which really should be under the backend folder so that it's sorted better. But if we were to use something like this to wait for a specific flag to be true, that could be interesting if we trigger a dungeon transition and then we wait for that flag to be true before we continue with like the continuation of that cutscene. That would be helpful. That would be helpful. Like if we ever wanted to do like cutscenes that involved like two characters talking, then we do like a transition out of that and then into a different scene where like say the villain is having a monologue or something, and then we, you know, transition out of that and back to our main characters and then give control back to the player. That would be useful to be able to in here check the scene that we're currently active as a flag. But again, we could also just make a new sequence step, which is wait for scene load or something. It's just this question of like, do we want to bake this system into flags so it's reusable in other things? And I think the answer to it is yes. It bloats the flag management with more entries. But overall, I like it. Overall, I like it, and that's all that matters. So let's take a look at the location design data. And we're going to copy all of this, I think. This is a big task, but I really like it. So we're going to generate not a chat action. Yeah, we don't need actions for every location. That was something very specific to that setup. Don't need a traversal. So we'll need a flag. So we'll make a new flag, and it's not a location flag, it's a scene flag. And we'll see, maybe when we work through this, we realize this is a bad idea. And then instead of location design data, we're going to need a scene design data. Which is a little bit odd because really it's essentially just going to be our list of scenes that we're adding to the game. We're just going to have to also add an ID for every single one of them. But this could be useful if we ever wanted to have metadata associated with scenes. In fact, we kind of already do this, don't we? Unity's loading up the changes to the scripts. Okay, thank you for giving me back control. No, not yet. It's thinking. Okay, thank you. These things here have all the data about a level, all of its tiles. And then we started adding like the level name and the cutscene that happens when that level is loaded into here. And then we are loading that up through the level data into the board. But maybe this stuff should live inside the design data if we're going to have a design data for every scene. It's kind of weird because it's breaking it up. But the way we make flags is by looping through a set of design data and creating one for each entry in that design data. And we don't really have a way of like looping through and checking all of the level objects that we have created. Oh my god, there's too much stuff open. Just close all the art stuff. Yeah, so we don't have a way of checking all of these. So it feels bad to double up the data, but I think this is the right call. Also, this should be higher. How long have I been like hiding stuff behind my head? Okay. Probably have several streams. That's fine. It's likely nothing that far down that was of importance. So, I like this idea. So we're going to give each scene design data an ID. For now, we're not going to worry about moving all of the other data that we embedded inside of level data into the scene design data. we're just going to worry about setting up a pretty basic version of this. And it's only going to be used for creating the flags right now. Okay, next thing, we need a parser. So that location design data must be parsed somewhere. Here. So we will need to make a new parser. This will be a scene parser. I feel like there is a way in which we could... We could like look at our build settings and like look at some of these different like entries and try and make an entry for every single one of these. No, I'm gonna... it's not a big deal. It's gonna be a big deal. Okay. I'm gonna continue to move. I'm gonna put oh, okay, how do we do this? How do we go? Where do we go from here? I'm just really afraid that as we start building out tons of rooms, it's going to be a hassle to keep this thing up to date. And I feel like there should be some sort of system in place that would allow me to auto-generate this information somehow. My first thought is that if we have a... JSON file that's going to exist and be edited, then when we generate a room, we generate these assets. We could probably go find the JSON data, and if there isn't an ID in that JSON data yet, we could add it to that JSON data. Yeah, you know what? I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Let's go look at some of our existing scenes. Dungeons. Let's start with the Goddess Realm. Okay. Coming to here. We have the Goddess Realm object here, which we can raycast in order to generate that data for this space. And when we do that, we generate these assets. So what we want to do then is we want to do all the same stuff we would normally do for the parser. So if we grab the scene parser we were in the process of building, normally we find a file path for the TSV. We're not going to do that for this. Instead, we're going to read all the information about the current scene data, and we're going to deserialize it to a scene design data holder. Okay? Then we're going to... This is all when? When is this happening? This is probably all part of save. So I'll do level data. Yes. Okay. I think at the very start up here, one of the first things we're going to do, because board name is what we care about, we're going to grab the scene data. We're going to need to add some JSON stuff here in order for this to work. We are then going to not worry about reading the text, I don't think. And then we're going to need to do this. Okay. And we are actually going to pull this all out, extract this to a new method, and we will call this add scene design data. And this will take the board name which for our purposes is the scene name. Okay. Then in here, we're going to need to add to the scene data. So how would we have done that here? Like this. Hash the value to an ID. And then if it was not found, try get here. And if not found, then we add it. And then eventually we could do any other additional adds here. For any additional metadata. This import asset just makes it so that it actually like re-imports the asset. Otherwise you have to run this thing twice. It's a weird import asset problem. Okay, so add scene design data. That might just do it. So now anytime we save, it's going to load an extra file, make sure that the data is in there, and it failed. We still need this logic as well. It is not as quite as simple as I thought. I see. I see. So we try and get the data. If it's null, we create a new one. We set the ID to the ID that we created up here via the scene name by hashing it to an integer. And then if not found, we add that ID with that scene data to the holder. And then we write it all back out again. And if we wanted to add additional metadata, we could do that here. All right, here we go again. See what happens. Clear. Raycast, no errors. So then if we go look at the JSON data now, which is going to be somewhere way down here, scene design data now has one entry in it, which I'm assuming this is correct. Okay, so now we don't need a flag parser. So, or sorry, the scene parser. So we don't need this. So we can delete this object. Instead, we'll let the construction of that JSON file be handled automatically whenever we make a new map. Love it. Happy it. Happy it? What are my words? Okay, we're moving on. let's go to the location stuff again. And we're going to want to look at not this thing, but the holder. Where does the holder get initialized? Here. We have a process of loading all of our datas. So we will go through the scene design data holder and we'll load it as scene design data. What else do we do? We make sure that that is then loaded. So we have to add it here to make sure that we don't start the game before that data is ready. And that should be everything. Well, that looks like the game broke. We have to, it can't find this by automatic. It needs an actual like addressable ID to look it up. That makes sense. Okay. Now it should load in. This won't do anything, to be clear, right now. But we want to make sure that we're at least loading the data correctly. It couldn't find the flag. Okay, that's the next step. So we have to add that flag to the system. So we load all the flags as part of the flag manager. And we initialize all of these different things. We want to generate a flag for every scene. And we will toggle these as we enter scenes. Okay, so then we're going to go through the scene design data. We're going to go through the scene design data holder. We're then going to create a flag with the scene design data, which means we need to update the flag factory. We'll use this one. And we will create a scene design data into a scene flag. This will now need to take scene design data. In fact, we should probably do location to scene. Match casing. And then capital location to capital scene. Okay. So now we have another flag. Now this one seems good. Yeah, this is okay. That should all be correct. And we should now be making a scene flag for every scene. The trick will be actually editing it and setting it and unsetting it. So how do we set a location flag? How is that being done? We'll use that as potentially an example, but I'm not 100% sure that it'll be a good one. Actually, let's just go here. So we're going to look at set status of flag. Well, there was a sequence step for it. Yeah, we're aware of that. Let's actually just find references. It'll be easier to read down here. There's stuff for quests and quest design data. Oh, it could have been through the results system. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I'd started building this system for the town stuff that like we could unlock new locations, and the way we unlocked that was by getting a result, and that result object would mostly just set flags. So we could have like something reward a result, and that result could do a number of things, but mostly it was just managing, saying that a specific quest was completed, or a certain location had been unlocked, or a certain moment was now available. Or completed as well. Okay. Yeah, we haven't looked at any of this stuff at all. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I built up this like really robust screen-based town system, and then I was like, okay, well now I need to build the dungeon, and then it's been like a year of that. So I haven't really gone back to any of the town stuff in a long time. So yeah, I think this is how the location stuff was being set, so that's not helpful to us. I think what I'd like to do is I think I'd like to have a scene flag. On initialize, register a observer. Yeah, I don't love this. My thought is that we could listen for whenever we change scenes. Transition. Manager. Does this send an event? So it does send a scene change complete notification, but I think this is all done with, yeah, the dungeon system. So that when we change scenes, the dungeon reloads, basically. Okay. What do we do? What do we do? How do we set the flag? I guess the easiest thing is just to do it here. We know what scene we're unloading. So the last scene. So at this point, around here is when we really have finished everything. This is bad, but we'll come back to that later. Backend state manager dot instance dot set flag status, and we can do last seen, and we can set it to not started. Okay, that should work. And then we know our current scene to be this scene name is the new one, and we will set that one to active. Yeah, I guess that works. It's a little hard-codedy, but we've essentially spent, you know, half an hour or something baking the current scene into a flag. So in theory, we shouldn't get any errors now when we run this. We still are. Because it's still not finding that flag. Well, I didn't save everything, it doesn't look like. That could be step one. Let's also go back to the backend flag manager. Did I end up actually adding... Yeah, I added scene data, so it should be creating every flag. Well, let's give it one more try after I saved everything and see if that fixes it. Alright, still getting an error. Let's do some breakpoints. Start by removing all the breakpoints. Delete all, because I don't know what we were doing yesterday. Oh, I don't know when that comment was from, but if you're still here, welcome, Tezkid. Saying in YouTube, it's been at least 14 years since you last seen my content. That is very likely. 2010, 2011 was when my content was definitely its biggest form, or at its biggest peak. Sadly, the content has evolved a lot over the years, and it is not quite at that same... not a lot of Let's Play stuff anymore. Mostly these days working on game dev stuff. Mostly just working on my own video game, and not necessarily in the most entertaining way either. It's a lot of just me talking through the problem solving, doing a lot of coding and design work. Minecraft and Oblivion were definitely some of the biggest. Funnily enough, Oblivion is still the most popular. I mean, to be fair, I was a junior programmer when I started that stuff. I just gotten out of school when I first started doing some of the Minecraft Oblivion stuff, so I've been doing it for, I guess, 14, 15 years now. Enough that I feel confident enough to try and build my own thing, and I've been working on this project for about 4 years. Technically, it was 2 projects. Me and my wife, Drixie, we've been working on one project for 2 years and then realized it was going to be too big and then started working on this smaller one. Complicated to describe. So I'm trying to build something that is akin to a... So it's single character tactical game. So one of the best references I've heard people describe is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, or the Mystery Dungeon games in general. Is like a reference point. Let's see if we can get past this. Sadly, I am in the middle of trying to fix a bug, so I cannot easily show. But the current channel video is like me talking about the past 2 years. Right now we're smack dab in the middle of me taking 4 weeks off work to work on this. We're just finished week 1 and we're just into week 2, just starting here. So 3 more weeks of streaming about 4 or 5 times a week. Definitely will be the most content I'll put out probably in the whole year, but with time off, it's definitely been really nice to just rubber duck my way through a lot of problem solving stuff. So we are coming in here and we are sending in the design data for this flag, and we are adding that flag. So then if we're creating that flag, is the ID name just not, the ID name is just not correct. Okay, that makes sense. So let's stop debugging. Okay, maybe I can show you where we're at now. So if we go into the combat screen, combat base, action points, instead of location Goddess Realm, this is now going to be the name of the scene. That's JRPG stuff. Close that down so I stop getting confused. And then we're looking for the scenes. So it'll be, this will be the flag name, I'm pretty sure. And so if that is not started, then this UI will not appear. Let's give that a shot. I've been pretty much using Unity the entire time that I've been working on video games. So like I've got 15 years experience with it, and a lot of my stuff has been built up in the a lot of my tooling has all been built up around this engine, so I'm kind of locked in. But I don't know, it's also just my comfort zone. Like, I've just been working in Unity for so long, it just feels so safe and comfortable to be here. Let's try starting a new game. We'll zoom in a bit. Okay. Good. So basically the idea here is that it's modeled after like an anime isekai. It's a little bit of a snake eating its own tail. We get resurrected here. The goddess gives us like this timepiece, and then we get sent down into like her world to stop the demon lord. The pitch name for this, and I think the real name for I just like it a lot, is Infinite Retries to Defeat the Demon Lord. And so then we come into this forest area, and we are able to move around and explore. So it's kind of mixing like a tactical game with like something like a dungeon crawl. So we've got this isometric look, but we also have all these tiles being revealed as we move around the space. Oh, so whatever we did for the required broke the alignment system. Okay, we'll have to take a look at it in a second. This UI should be underneath Hero's feet. And then as we move into other rooms, we can start exploring more. And the idea is that as we fight past some of these enemies and make our way further into the game, you'll either run out of time or run out of health. And when you run out of those resources, the game will end, and you will essentially, I'm going to debug end us. We're going to go back to the Goddess Realm, and from here we'll be able to start another run. We can then go over to this scrying pool where we can unlock some more abilities, so we can equip these 3 still working on some of the tutorialization to actually have those like unlock as part of the gameplay flow. And then we can choose a checkpoint. We want to have like a big map here that's kind of abstractly showing your different positions. And then you can choose a checkpoint and then you'll spawn at that location. And unlike something like a traditional roguelike where everything is a random procedural experience where the map is constantly changing, I want to see if I can do like it's kind of like a roguelike with a fixed map. So as you explore more of the world stays explored in between runs. So your knowledge is kind of power. So when you first start, you might have to do a lot of wandering around and wasting a lot of time. And you won't be able to get as far. But once you have explored more of the world and you grow in strength by upgrading your abilities and, you know, growing your character stats, you'll be able to defeat enemies quicker. You'll be able to make it further to later checkpoints. And when you get to later checkpoints, you'll be able to progress the story. So it's like a linear JRPG story framed around doing runs like a roguelike, but with consistent world. Does that make sense? It's very confusing. Everyone I try and explain it to is like, that's like different. I can't think of anything else that does something like this. But yeah, it's got like a skill grid system where you can upgrade your health, your magic, your strength. And then you unlock new abilities through the skill tree. This is the thing that I think is also a really neat innovation that I haven't seen anyone else doing, but like, there's probably something, but it's similar to like Disgaea stuff. Sometimes I've heard, I haven't played Disgaea. It's on the list. I really should, because I'm a big tactics fan, but the idea is each ability has its own skill tree, and the more you use that ability, you level up and gain skill points for that skill tree. And then as you progress through and unlock stats, eventually you unlock new abilities, and that new ability can be equipped and used to level up, and that new ability will have its own skill tree that will unlock stats and then in turn unlock more abilities. So it's a skill tree system in which you unlock more skill trees, essentially. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. As for wanting to try it, that's good news, because yeah, again, the whole goal for my 4 weeks vacation right now is just to get to a demo by January 5th. I don't know if I'll have that demo released on that day. I might take me a little bit of time to figure out how to do like itch.io or Steam or whatever I decide to put it out to be available. But I'm hoping then to use the Discord and create some channels for feedback in the Discord and like get some thoughts from people. I think one of the things that is really hard to convey on stream is the controls are a bit awkward. A lot of people I hand it to try and use the joystick on the controller to control the character, but it just feels awkward to them a lot of the times because they're trying to push in the direction where they need to go. But actually, a lot of my directional stuff is based off of like pure north, south, east, west. So at some point I need to create like an option screen that let you control, like, do you want the joystick to push on a 45-degree angle to match what you're seeing in the screen? Or do you want to have like what I consider to be an easier control scheme of just up, down, left, right? Honestly, I think the D-pad is an even better way to move, and the joystick is kind of just a trap for this type of game, but I don't want to dictate how players want to move. They should be able to choose that in an option screen. But that's kind of the stuff I'm most concerned about. Is a lot of the feedback I get on these streams is that it looks cool, it looks neat, seems like a neat idea, but I think the controls are the thing that aren't coming across very well on stream. Trixie with the stretch. That's probably fair. I've been sitting for a couple hours. We are getting close to the 2-hour mark. Hold tight as we get in position. Okay. Standing desk engaged. All right. This needs to be Mic stand needs to be a little higher, but now I think we're good. Yeah, so most of the time I control the game via keyboard, but I don't have any mouse controls, and that's a purposeful decision. I want this game to feel like an old PlayStation or Super Nintendo game. It is not meant to be played with a mouse, and there is no way to click these buttons. So like I can use WASD, and the number pad, essentially 2, 6, 4, and 8 represent like A, B, X, Y, and then WASD is the up and down controls. I probably want to let remappings on that, but I'm never adding click because it's just not how it's meant to be played. It's just not a mouse and keyboard game. It can be keyboard if you don't have a controller, but I do kind of want to have just a disclaimer right on the front that's just like, this is not a mouse experience. I don't know how to make that big and bold, but I don't know. It's just not the vision. And it's my thing. So yeah, gonna go with that. Okay, so we now have a flag that should be turning the UI on and off for the action points when we're in the Goddess Realm. Let's validate that, actually. New game. And then we'll go take a look at the scene view in here. So we shouldn't see any action points anywhere, and I'm not. Okay, so I think that is working. The problem is that when we get sent into the actual realm in here, if we speed past a lot of that, it's all the way over here. So why is it anchoring it in an incorrect position? I'm assuming that's because we created a parent and that somehow broke everything. So we have this player action points. So this should be anchoring. Ah, yeah. If I change this to be perfectly the size of the screen, yeah, okay. The parent we created was not stretched properly to be the full screen size. Let's go fix that. In fact, we can do that easier via prefab. Anyways, does that make sense? Any questions or thoughts on that pitch, or anything that wasn't clear from it? Fixed, good. And then we're just going to run through again. Also, follow up, how'd you find it? How'd you find the YouTube video? Was it just on your recommendation page? It's so interesting seeing, it happens, I would say like every other week, we have someone show back up and be like, Tolhi, I haven't seen your Minecraft videos in 15 years. And it feels like YouTube's slowly trickling the videos out to the like 15K subscribers. But I always thought that YouTube had pretty much considered the channel dead in a lot of ways, so it's always interesting to see it like push it for whatever reason randomly someday. Okay, action points are showing up in the right spot. Ah, it wasn't a recommendation, it was just you happened to think of my channel playing Oblivion. Yeah, no, that's fair. We definitely get some folks coming back through that as well. The name is the funniest thing because I feel like it is a pretty hard name. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't have went with the Tolhi, but yeah, it's something that not everyone remembers. But it is funny that you say that it is something that stuck with you. So we're not seeing the action points here at all. So I think we fixed this. So let's bring back up Pure Ref and look at some of the... So action bar appears in Goddess Realm and is broken. We're just going to remove it completely in the Goddess Realm because we don't care about how many actions you have until the enemy goes in this space. So that is done. So now we just got more UI that we need to reveal through the tutorial. I'd also like to take a look at these two in tandem at some point. These are kind of the next big polish items that I would like to take a look at, which is that we have this alert icon that appears above the enemy's head, but it takes their whole turn. Their whole action is like, oh, I'm alert. But because it just means that you lose a lot of the enemy's aggression if their first turn is an alert and you get 3 actions to their 1. So I think I want this to be an immediate effect that just plays at the end of a turn before anyone else takes their actions. It should be a response or a end of turn effect. Sounds good. No worries, and hope to see you around. The other reason that sorry, I'm just trying to regroup the thought. So if we want this to be an end of turn response, but also I kind of want to make it a little bit more generically handled, so it isn't just part of an ability, but it is something that we can just play at somewhat at will, because I'd like to have some alert icons for some of the cutscene stuff. So when Hero says, "Where am I?" it'd be great if there was like a question mark that appeared above the Wisp's head. Speaking of the Wisp, let's quickly see if we can get this one done. We're going to take a look at some more of the tutorial stuff in the stream after at 1 o'clock, because we're going to be taking lunch here in about 8 minutes. So let's see if we can get the Wisp variant that's a little smaller set up. So we have Wisp here. Which one is which? So this is Wisp formatted. This is Wisp resized. So this one's 36 by 45. And this one is... Wait, this one's 36 by 45. This one's 30... This is supposed to be the resized variant? Oh, does it just have extra white space? They look to be the same size. Huh. Let's just try re-exporting this. So we will replace the PNG here. Yes, we're going to replace the JSON data with an array, and we're going to export that. It's possible that both of them got modified to be smaller. It doesn't look like it. We may find that the art is not as up to date on my machine as I would hope. In which case we may have to wait for the resizing of the Wisp until I talk with Drixie at a later point and get the new art. Let's go to characters. It's going to be under NPCs, Hero Wisp. Yeah, that looks the same. I'm just going to try directly opening the resize variant again. No, it just opens this tab. So this doesn't look that different. Okay, I don't think we have the most up-to-date version that is resized down. We'll try playing in the engine again, but the fact that we re-exported everything and everything still lines up without resplicing it means that we don't have the smaller version on hand. Yeah, okay. That's fine. I know that that work was done. We just don't have it on this PC at this time. Okay, so what else can we do that's quick? Change facing might be a little harder than I think it's going to be. We need a particle effect, otherwise this is pretty straightforward. These are not easy tasks. These just kind of got thrown in here. Find a way to disable the tile revealing by sight in the Goddess Realm. We might be able to do that one. That shouldn't be too bad. See if we can do that quickly. Oh man, we've been listening to Tiny Trials for a while. I really like this new song from Panman Audio. Links are in the description of every one of these because I use the audio a lot. Like to push the advertising for them. But yeah, no. Let's switch it up to walk anew. Sure, sense a home to end us. If we go to this player, so what version of move is this using? This is using contextual move. The navigation, no, it is using normal move. Okay, so does this have side effect associated with it? Does not look like it. Oh, do we actually use default attack instead of navigation? Odd. I bet you we do. Huh. If we take a look at the normal character, how does the normal character work? Contextual move and navigation are the same. Okay. Let's go back to the Wisp. I think what I want to do is I want to open up contextual move. Abilities, simplified. Let's make a new variation of this. We're going to call this Wisp move, which is going to be a much simpler version. So it's not going to do... Honestly, I don't think it needs to do pretty much any of this. Where is the actual movement happening? This is a move effect, but it does need to find the tile in front of it. So it might just be copy this move effect, paste it as a new object up here. So we will find a unit by tile. No, that's not right. We're going to need to select... What if we look at base move? How did base move work? I think the base move is a better example of what we want the Wisp move to do. Property 1. Yes. Okay, I think we want to do this. This dash attack should be find tile. And this shouldn't be called tile. I think for clarity, this should be find unit. So what we're doing here is we're finding a unit in front of us, and we're going to say found unit is the property. If found unit is 0 as a conditional property to this, and we valid tile and found tile are true, which I think by default we're setting to 1. We just assume it is. Then we come into here, then we check to see if this is a valid destination, and we set that in this valid destination property. And then here we check to see if it's valid, and if it is, then we do some site stuff and we do some movement. So I think if we just disable this here, and then we go into the Wisp version of the player, and we give it the Wisp move as a prefab under it, and instead of contextual move or normal move, we just always do Wisp move for both of these, because we're not going to be attacking anyways. I I think that'll allow us to move around the Goddess Realm without revealing any tiles. And the idea here now is, as part of the next section of tutorialization, when we return to the Goddess Realm after some later runs, we're going to speed up the game so we can skip past here. We're going to slow the game back down again to normal speed, and then end the run immediately. Now, no tiles should be revealed when we walk around. Ah, interesting. But the movement system doesn't care. Oh, also interesting, when we re-imported the character, the facings were flipped. That looks right. But south and east, or southeast and southwest are backwards. Interesting. Okay, cool. But yeah, so this is partly working. But the problem is that if a tile is not revealed, you can still walk on it. And I suppose that makes sense because we've never had a system where you don't just see the tiles. This is the first time I'm trying to make it so that you can move around a space and not auto-reveal everything. Okay. This also might be... This is a little bit of a hacky way of doing this, because in some regards it'd be nice if we could have the same functionality of tiles that are not revealed inside of this area as well, so we could have like secret paths that need you to fully complete a room, for example, in order for those tiles to appear. So I think maybe this requires a little more thought, because we might want to have it so that this is less of a feature of the Goddess Realm specifically and more a feature of specific tiles. Okay. I'm going to give it some thought over lunch, but we'll come back in about an hour. We'll pick up from here. We'll try and fix the... I don't even know what this was under. Did we not have a task for this? I guess we didn't have a task for this. Regardless, it all kind of revolves around the tutorial. We're going to come back and we're going to work on the tutorial for the last 2-hour stream of the day, or the second 2-hour stream of the day, from 2 to 4 PST. So in about an hour, we'll come back. We'll work on making some more tutorial areas, work on some more tutorial UIs and cutscenes, and then we'll be back tomorrow as well as yeah. We'll be back in an hour and we'll be back tomorrow. I don't know, I'm rambling. I'm gonna need to go eat lunch.